Mr. Phil Andrews, Wayne Gilman, Alvin Hartley, and of course, I'm Lady Pauline, your hostess with the mostest.
Well, that's good to hear. And I think at this point, from what I was instructed earlier this morning to do, was introduce the panelists.
That's right, Wayne.
Okay, so we're about 20 minutes into this program trying to figure things out, but forgive us, because I'm assuming the tape is rolling now.
Yes,
our first guest is on the panel. There's half dozen of us, but the first person is Randy Fling, an accomplished and renowned media executive with 30 years under his belt in digital media, telecommunications, direct sales, and marketing industries. Randy remains a valuable asset for established venture-backed digital media companies seeking help with strategic planning, marketing, leadership, or financial systems. Second panel member is the Honorable Mal Woolfolk, the undisputed mayor of the Jersey Shore from Long Branch to Seaside Heights. Mal is also a longtime friend and a valued partner in the Small Business Resource Cooperative, TMI, and partners, TMI and partners, that is. TMI provides financial, investment, and business consultations. The cooperative has provided assistance to 43 national cooperation partners who have become successful by their guidance. All kidding aside, I've known Mal for over 30 years. I'm Mal. He's a founding member of the legendary entertainment group, The Best of Friends, along with the Dow Twins, Juan Harper, people who are old enough to remember that group. Our third guest is Leonard Burnett, longtime publishing entrepreneur and executive, originally from Ohio. He and his business partner, former classmate Keith Clinkscale, in the early 1990s helped form Vibe magazine, that legendary magazine. Burnett is also responsible for other publications like Savoy, Honey, Heart and Soul, and especially Uptown, which you could see and probably get all over the country now. It's rather prominent, all of those publications. Sam Chisholm was supposed to be with us, and I don't think he's here, is he?
No, he's not.
Is Sam still coming or calling or?
No, he's not.
Okay, so he's out, but unfortunately, he was unable to be with us today. Our next person is honored guest here is Ted Pettis, a seasoned professional in the world of advertising. He has close to 30 years experience at both general market and multicultural ad agencies, this before launching his own firm. He has also worked in a variety of businesses that has served as a foundation for entrepreneurial experiences. And Frank Mercado Valdez, who has an outstanding background in media promotion. He is the founder of the Miss Collegiate Black American pageant. He was the media coordinator of the 1988 Bush Quayle presidential campaign. We can all blame him for that. He launched the African American Heritage Network, or the African Heritage Network, forgive me, syndicated television operation and production company with rights to such films like Cotton Comes to Harlem, Porgy and Best, and Shaft. His network also introduced the Movie of the Month series, once hosted by my late distinguished New Rochelle neighbors, Ozzie Davis and Ruby D. I want to say welcome to all. Forgive me for fumbling.
Welcome,
and it was
everybody.
a pleasure and an honor to have all of you here.
Yes, and welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Right, and the one person who's largely responsible for all this is Alvin Hartley. Alvin.
Oh, me?
He selected the panel, so if there's any problems, we blame him. Here he is. I know you had to get your makeup on and your hair done. Go ahead, Alvin.
Definitely so. I also want to introduce one of our special guests, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. And Wayne, introduce Reginald Thomas.
Yeah, Reggie Thomas is a longtime friend and former colleague. He was sales manager at WLIB, WBLS back in the 80s and 90s. He also managed V103 in Baltimore. He's also credited and produced the NAACP Crisis Magazine national radio program, former owner of WLBE in Florida, worked for KJLH with Stevie Wonder. He's got more credits than I have lives. And, you know, I just figured he could add a lot to what's going on with this distinguished panel today. Reggie, welcome.
Also,
Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
I just wanted to,
And I'm from Long Island.
Yeah, he's from Long Island, yeah.
and I want to
be
introduce
your
my
neighbors.
special guest.
From Hempstead.
I also want to introduce my special guest that I invited. That's Curtis Simon, a longtime friend. You guys may have known this guy's a legend in the industry. He worked as the vice president of marketing for BET. I think you guys know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Reginald is a strong advocate for HBCU. He didn't go to mine, but that's okay. He's okay. He can do it. Also, Reginald for many years believed in supporting HBCU. So he has a new platform, which is HBCU Go, is it? Did I say it right? Curtis?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Also, he's the one of the chairpersons of Moby. They do Marketing Monday, if I said that right, or they do an event every Monday. So let me tell you, let me show you how this ball really happened. Phil called me up late at night, waking me up. Phil don't believe in calling people like 8, 9 o'clock. Phil called people 12:31. Still don't understand his brother. But Phil called me. He said, I spoke to Pauline and we didn't need to do Black Media Summit. So I said, great. But as we started putting it together, I said, there's so many legends, and each and every one of you, I praise you as legends and as good friends, because if anybody understand where it came from, where it is, and where it's going, we have some of the finest people here. Why not get some of the greatest minds? So Friday was dedicated to the legends and to cover some of the 3 topics that we're going to talk about. With that, I immediately called my mentor of all mentors is Ted Pettis, who brought me into his agency after I have left Uniworld, and Ted Pettis just really let me grow with the agency. Then I immediately ran over to Len Burnett. Len has his wife answer the phone now when he sees my name come up, and she said, "You know, here."
And my wife. Don't put that one on me.
Because every time people see my number come up, they're like, "Here, answer it. Say I'm not here." Okay. I chased Ted Pettis to like, Alvin, what do you want? But I then went to my.
I'm learning a lot just listening to everyone and how you handle Alvin.
So I ran over to Randy, and the reason why, because everything's here. Guys, some of y'all know each other, but I listen to as you guys call me, and it's amazing how you guys are in awe of each other, and I don't think each other know how much you guys are in awe of each other. And as Black men, I wish there were some more females, but I am so proud. So then I went and called Frank Mercado. Now, you know, Frank has no filter on his mouth. So Frank said, "What the hell you want? What we're going to talk about? Tell me what you want to talk." I'm like, "Frank, this is what we're going to talk about." Frank got legend. But the most important of all, I wanted to let the folks know that are here that this is family about to talk. This is unfiltered. This is really raw Black media, where it is, where it's going, and where it can go. Curtis and everybody else out there has been doing it. And also, we got to give again props to Phil Andrew, because you guys see Phil. If anybody does PR, Phil does PR. Phil makes, I'm just telling you, Phil does PR. Phil faces all over the place. So I want to throw it back to you, Pauline, so we can throw out the first question, so we can get the panelists to.
All right, well, let's start. The first question is the role of the Black media in advancing the Black agenda. Who wants to start off with that?
Okay, I would like to see if we can start with, I'm going to hit Ted to start rolling that, and Mal is because they're seasoned people, and then I want the rest of you guys to jump in. Mal or
yes, hello, yeah.
Or matter of fact, these 2 guys know each other way back. Ted? Go ahead.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Hey, Mal, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. I thought I had gone far enough that Alvin couldn't find me down here.
Right.
But he has a way of searching you out.
He's persistent.
Anyhow, yeah, but he's a good man. Good man.
No, absolutely.
You know, when we started with Lockhart and Pettis, it was one of those things that way back in the day that you know, for the growth of our agency, we had to have black media because we were dealing with our number one client at the time was dark and lovely hair care products for black women. And it was important not only to have access to the airwaves through radio because we were over consuming radio. We were also, we needed to have some presence in print. And that's where Essence and Upscale and Ebony Jet played a major role in the growth of that particular brand and all the products that they released over the 20-year relationship that we had with Dark and Lovely. The parent company was Carson Products out of Savannah, Georgia. So we needed that visual presence to show beautiful hair because at the time, black women were buying products made for Caucasian women and guessing as to how their hair would be affected by hair color and conditioners and relaxers. And we showed beautiful black women in all the shades that we all know and the effectiveness of the product, especially a no-lye based relaxer. So, you know, it played a major role in the growth of that brand and the growth of my agency.
And Mal, you, I know, well, you're one of the founders of the organization Friends. I keep forgetting, Mal.
I'm not hearing you.
Okay. You started, well, if anybody knows anything about black advertising, you own several nightclubs and you did more black advertising and marketing across the country. Okay. You, Mal?
I'm sorry. Repeat that, please.
I said someone who understands about black media and advertising. You started Leviticus and several other nightclubs, and you ran several business and marketing campaigns.
Yes. We started a number of places in New York, first as promoters. And then we went into ownership, ultimately principal ownership for 5 clubs in New York and partial ownership for 6 more clubs in Philadelphia and 6 additional clubs in Washington, D.C., Foxtrot, Raphael's, Tiffany's, for people that may know the D.C. area. And ultimately in 1979, 80, I put together a collection of 125 fairly large clubs, cabarets. Most of them held at least 400 people across the country, and we had a couple in the Caribbean and in Africa. So we grew into obviously the marketing economies of scale nationally, and we had a national brand as well as our local brands. Being big consumers of paper and those products, newspaper ads, magazine articles, and radio time, we moved into developing our own in-house design and media and copy companies. We were fortunate that a couple of the members had worked for Young and Rubicam, Noel Hankin and Andre Smith. Charles Perry had worked for Wallwood Bucks and Miller. So we had some folks with some advertising and marketing background in-house, which helped a lot. And we used that expertise to engage some fairly large clubs in Chicago and Atlanta and Houston and Detroit and Oakland and all the other bigger cities to start on-site marketing, principally for liquor companies and beer companies.
So with that, to bounce that over to, I'm definitely going to do a deep dive into Leonard Burnett, because I remember, Len, not only did you have, my God, Vibe magazine, but you guys had several publications. And how important were those publications to your readers, and how much did they really cling to those publications?
Well, I mean, I think you know, we believed and felt that all of our magazines, from little old Urban Profile all the way up to where we are with Uptown, were important to our readers and to the culture, because at the time when we launched Urban Profile in 86, 88, and in Vibe in 93, there was a feeling amongst many that there were too many Black magazines at the time. I mean, I distinctly remember trying to raise money, and there was a feeling amongst a lot of consumers and even advertisers that we had enough with Essence, Black Enterprise, Ebony, and Jet. And so I think the reason it was important to our readership is because what we knew then and know now more than ever is that we're not one monolithic group, that we have a very wide, diverse thoughts and beliefs and colors, desires, and everything. So and so it was important at that time to push across that conversation, and it was an uphill battle. And if not for the likes of the Lockhart and Pettis of the world, Uniworld, Burrell, Mingo Jones, Carolyn Jones, all those different agencies, who, by the way, they didn't jump on board immediately all the time, but what they did do were sort of handheld myself and Keith through the process of how to earn the business. And then in addition to that, they're supporters of people like Frank, and others that weren't necessarily in the magazine business. I'll tell you, Mr. Johnson, we got him on the phone one day, and God rest his soul, God bless him. We tracked him down, myself, Keith, and Derek Ferguson, and his assistant said he'll call us back in a half hour. He called back. We sat by that phone like we were talking to the Wizard of Oz, right? And he was like, "Hey, nice to meet you. What do you guys want? How can I help you?" And then he goes, then he says, "Well, that's cool, and I wish you guys luck, but we're competitors." So I don't know what you want me to tell you, but I wish you luck. But that was, even in that was inspirational, and it was a memory that I still hold to this day. But the point being is that the magazines and media in general are very important to our consumers, and the fear that I have, and that we're I'm sure a lot of us do on this call, is that we are a dying breed. Not only magazines and radio and television, there are very few left that are truly Black owned. Newspapers, there are more newspapers than anything else probably, but it's a difficult time. And freedom of the press belongs to those who own one. And as we are dwindling in ownership, that is going to have that'll have some issues. But that's why it's important to keep doing things like you're doing, Alvin.
Before I get to Curtis, and Frank, I saw you were chewing and you were nodding your head, so I guess we're hitting some home runs here. But Randy and Curtis has been out there for a long time, beating the doors, selling, trying to really get their products out there. But I'm gonna go to Randy first. Randy, I talk to you a lot, and every time I talk to you, you're someplace in some state, either you're at an event or you're at some agency, you're trying to sell your product. You're trying to sell that product, that we are a vehicle towards that minority community or that diverse community, whatever they want to talk about. All right. Have you found it more of a challenge now than ever since all this media is kind of drying up? Because Len did say something. I mean, yeah, Len said something. Back in the days, there's too many of y'all. Now there's practically none of us.
Right. Well, and again, it depends on the people speaking, because people will always speak from their perspective to tell you, why you can't do it, why they don't want to help you do it in that case. So, you know, we actually did a glossy magazine in '97 before we started rolling out. So we did a magazine for about 1.5 years called Direct Wire. And, you know, we paid money. We were at Penn Station and some other places. And we learned that business was difficult. You know, we were following folks like Lem and Bernard over at Upscale, who's a friend. So when we switched over to rolling out and decided to come out weekly and go to newsprint, we felt like being able to be localized rather than just national all at once could be our key, our niche. And still, because, you know, we got voices, the voices of Black people in Detroit are different than the Black voices of Black people, let's say in LA.
Absolutely.
Or in Texas, you know. We were also blessed to be in Atlanta because at that time, you know, our friends were all the people who were in the music business that was actually really booming, you know, late 90s and the 2000s, you know. Atlanta was really doing strong, much stronger than they had ever been in the music space. So that was very good to be very closely connected to that industry. But I will say that back then, getting advertising was hard. And I'm gonna say right now, getting advertising is hard. You know, coronavirus threw us a loop this year. And honesty, it certainly, you know, cut off a lot of our planned money and insertions that we had already received that people said, hey, we've got to cancel them now. We were supposed to run all year, but we will get back to you in a couple quarters and see what's going on with the country. So, you know, like most people, I mean, this year has been extra tough in that regard. I do feel like some things are starting to come back to life, but I think that you know, and I think it's helping at this, and I hope it's not just very short-lived that, you know, the Black lives, the protests and other things are at least bringing Black people's perspective to the front of the mainstream for people to talk about. And some, you know, corporations are acting like they want to be committed to it. And I just hope they spend money with businesses rather than just all nonprofits, you know, because I think as a business person, businesses will help us get going better and spread the love in our community, the financial love, to our own nonprofits. If we have enough successful businesses, including media businesses, we can support our own nonprofits. Absolutely. And educational venues. So
to turn that over, Curtis, I'll get to you, and then Pauline, we can go to the second one. So I want to do Curtis, and then I want to do Frank. Did Frank disappear again? Frank disappeared. Curtis, obviously. Oh, there you are, Frank. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking
you
around.
You can do Frank first. You can do. I have no problem you doing Frank first. Go ahead. You want to throw Frank in? There's no problem.
Frank. Now you know. Back in 2000, I mean, you bought us those different television shows that you had on the different networks. Okay, I just remember folks would come on Sundays. Am I right?
Weekends. It depended. It depended on the product at different stages of evolution.
Yeah, but I remember folks running home to see their favorite movie. Okay, and
Channel 7.
Am I right?
Yes.
And that gave the agencies, the Black agencies, also the opportunity to say to their clients, hey, look, because you made it a vehicle for the agencies to get more media dollars out of their clients because you had something where they could put the media behind. I mean, put the advertisement behind. Okay? But my question to you, Frank, you've been out there, you've been pounding it, and during that time that you were pounding it and work as well as working with HBCUs, the voice that you were putting out there, what was the pushback and what was the success? What was the pushback, making it difficult, but what was the success when you got it moving forward?
Well, television, first I want to say to Len said when he launched Urban Profile, which to this day is still my all-time favorite magazine, and that's straight up, I've told him that many times. When they said there was too many magazines, the main guy saying that was Mr. Johnson.
that is very true. Now that is very true.
And we lived in an era that I like. If someone would ask me define Black business in the last 50 years of the 20th century, I would say just call it Johnson & Johnson. And they didn't do pharmaceuticals, but they made a lot of us sick.
That is true.
and so, but look, so we picked a niche that would not have happened had it not been for Don Cornelius first, and then Bob Johnson. Because see, in order for us to exist, there had to be Black agencies that were empowered to make commercials. Now, Dark and Lovely was a product that needed to be on television. That was the optimum place. So Soul Train was locked into one hair care company, right? And so therefore there was an opportunity to, the hard part was getting time periods on stations. For us, after we did the Miss Collegiate pageant, which was once a year, and we're looking for ways to get, who didn't want to have a dance show? Who didn't want to have a weekly show? Well, the easiest way to get stations to deal with Black product was to give them movies that studios had made. And so since almost every market had a movie station that ran movies, it became a way to fulfill a need and distinguish ourselves. And the margins were amazing because the studios were practically giving us the movies at first, and we were able to charge a lot per spot to do it. So where we helped the agencies was because of the existence of broadcast product, they were able to convince their clients to make more commercials along with BET. And that's where they made the most money. I used to think they liked me, but what they really liked was that by using their media dollars for television instead of, say, magazines, they made more money placing that than they did placing an ad that ran in all the magazines, because they made more money making commercials. And that became the sweet spot for a lot of the agencies. And so it was a synergistic growth. See, it wasn't that one broadcast had a broader audience. So we had a lot more viewers than BET on a typical product. But BET had frequency. They could run that commercial 24/7. So it was a wonderful thing for that's why you saw eventually these guys like Uniworld and others sold themselves, because they were making a lot of money making TV commercials. Am I not right, Ted?
Frank, you're letting the cat out the bag, man.
That's one of the
no, you're right.
You're
right. You know, Frank, I haven't spoke to you in a while, but you know, I got much respect for you. You know that over the years. Okay. But you know the truth of it, and Leonard too. When you know, I'm going to just go back because we started in '77, and we started with Carson Products, and of course with Dark and Lovely. Basically, Dark and Lovely was being sold off the shelf because the packaging spoke to the Black female, as opposed to Clairol or L'Oreal, who just had white women on their packages. So that was where we started. Then we said, you know, we had to get into print, and the logical print to be in was Essence. Well, not even Essence; it was Ebony, because you have to remember, even though it was the mid to you know mid 70s, we were basically still coming out of that, you know, civil rights movement, and Ebony was the place that everyone wanted to see who was doing what and how they were doing it, and that was the place for a beauty product. Then Essence came along, and that swept up a lot of that money, but we really needed broadcast media to show what the Black woman looked like, what the effects of the product had. And you know, Leonard was saying something about I forgot the name of the magazine, but there was a couple of magazines that you and Keith had that were used by Carson Products to further the growth of their brand. But I mean, it was really about starting with a client that didn't have much money, being able to get the product on the shelf, and then how do you pull that product off the shelf? You have to get the consumer excited about the product. And the best way to do that was broadcast. And when supplementing that with the print, it made a big difference in the growth And
But
of course, Frank, as you said,
that's where I'm going to segue to Curtis, because Frank set it up. Curtis, and so I know they were spending money with you, right, Curtis?
I mean, I just want to say, first of all, I want to thank everyone on this panel, because all of us work together, you know, in trying to grow that black media. I mean, that was the thing that we all were trying to strive, you know. I mean, but unfortunately, as we all found out as we were trying to make our steps, everyone set us down a certain silo to try to get there, you know. And that was the big thing, as Frank was describing, you know, as we were trying to grow, and Lynn was describing, you know. I mean, one of the theories that Bob had, and I think kind of worked around itself, was that he made it very vocal about being the one-stop shop for black media. Well, to be one-stop shop for black media, that means you step in a few other toes to try to get there, from print business to hair care to paraphernalia to everything you can name. BET was trying to touch it, because that brand was what he was driving constantly, black entertainment television. And so, as you know, we were just talking about, I was just hearing about, as far as the advertising and the reach, you know, media became, people want to see each other. People want to see the television. And BT became the Obama of media back in the 70s, back in the 80s and 90s. You know, it was where everyone felt like they owned this channel, because they could see themselves. And we're a culture who likes to see ourselves. And just like you were just talking about, you know, Carson Products and Dark and Lovely, you know, and all that, you know, those are products. Hair care will never die, because that's something on a women's side that, you know, you got to keep your hair cut. On a men's side, you got to get your hair cut and groomed. It's just something that we live with, you know. And so, as we move through the years at BT, the one thing that, like Lynn was talking about, that I just thought was, you know, because I was involved in a lot of those meetings, you know, it's just that we just didn't work together enough. You know, we kept going down these silos. You know, I won't ever forget the conversation that Lynn was just saying that we had with John H., you know, about trying to bring John H. and Bob together. And just like Lynn was saying, John H. told Bob, I mean, we waited in his office, in his hallway one day, and finally when we got in the meeting, you know, he said the same thing to us, like he said to Lynn. He said, like, well, why do I need you? I got, you know, Ebony and Jet. I don't need you, you know. And we were saying, well, wait a minute. You need media to help promote Ebony and Jet and how we can grow together. But unfortunately, that was the silos that we saw, that we were put in, that we didn't take the opportunity. You know, now we're looking at, you know, our Black Lives Matter situation, social injustice situation. But we deserve more of this back in the old days, as Frank was talking about. You know, I mean, we were never given the opportunity to really grow the way all of us on the Zoom should have grown. You know, all of us could look at it. I remember we were 50 million homes, and we were only still getting $500 a spot for 30. That's unbelievable. You know, and MTV was getting 4 times that number at the time. You know, and all Louis Carr kept saying to me, I'm the distribution guy, was, got to give me more numbers, got to give me, I'm like, look, I got you 60 million, I got you 80 million. You know, when your number gonna change?
Yeah, but talk about how hard that was. See, did you ever one time meet a black decision maker who owned the cable system?
No, I mean, that was, you know, I mean, that, when you look at, you know, how we grew, and you know, people look at me a lot and say, you know, you mirrored Bob. Yeah, you know, you were the one driving everything for Bob. You know, I had a good product, you know, black entertainment television. But one thing I was smart at was that I've been in the cable business long enough to know the language that the white cable operators talked about. You know, the one thing that I was able to convince them at a point was that, don't look at us as black entertainment television. Look at us as programming. You know, when you look at 12% of the population makes up, you know, our population, you know, when we're at 50 million homes, that's not 12%. Okay, that's a crossover of people wanting to know more about our culture. And when people started understanding about how we're driving things through our culture, and all of you have been on the phone, we're able to drive in your own ways more people of non-color, they're not African Americans, we're reading, you know, and reading, looking at hair care, looking at, you know, Uptown or Bob or whatever, and reading about what we were doing. That's how we begin to really grow at BT. And then more and more, it helped expand us. Because then, as we all know, You know, once you continue to drive the brand out there, then more and more people start trying to tap into you because they want to know what that brand is doing. You know, and why are you, how are you getting there? You know, and that's the one thing that we were able to maneuver in our time, I thought, very well, because we were able to make some moves. And just like I heard earlier, like Lynn was talking about, a lot of people, I mean, I worked for Bob Johnson for 14 years. 6 of those years, 6 to 8 of those years, I never had a marketing budget. Never had a marketing budget. And people always wonder how I did what I did. Well, I learned how to build partnerships with that brand. And I was able to do a lot of things and barter, a lot of things, you know, going into the community and doing things to help drive that brand bigger and bigger and bigger. And that enabled me to open more doors as I went down the road, you know, and then we were able to now start chiming in with the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and start doing more and more with bigger names. And the more you tie into that, the more it helps drive your brand. So I think that's one of the things that all of us have done a good job of. But again, we went down on those, you know, we allowed ourselves to be put in some of those silos, and we had to work ourselves out of those silos instead of working more together as I thought we could have.
I got a quick question, if you don't mind. I don't mean to interrupt, but it's fascinating conversation. All of you have done commendable work, and I'm just curious because I'm on the other end, and I'm certain Reggie and Mal could attest to this. Why is it, and I'm using the word protectionist, you talked about John Johnson and his empire, and it seemed like he didn't want to have to share in the glory. It was almost as if, you know, and I never had a chance to meet him, but I used to read about what, you know, his empire was all about. I mean, is that one of the reasons why we're not having a larger profile today? I mean, despite the success of BET and even that sold. And I also wanted to get into Byron Allen. I don't know if you're familiar with the controversy going there.
Well, I can speak to both of those. Number one, I'm getting ready to do business with Byron, so I can speak to both of those. I think that one of the things, on the way, is that, you know, it wasn't that we didn't try. You know, I'm gonna say I sat in. I remember back in I came to BT at '88, and we went around in 1990 to every top entertainer and said, "Listen, why don't you invest in BT? Here's what we could do." Blah blah blah. Every single one of them turned us down. Every single one of them turned us down. But then when we sold, everybody said, "Damn, I should have jumped into this thing 20 years ago." You should have.
It was mad because they said, "Oh, he sold out." You know.
Exactly. And you did it right there, Lemon. And I said, and we all know as business people, if you work 20 plus years and somebody drops $3 billion on you, none of us are gonna sit there and say, "Don't give me the check." Bottom line, you know, I mean, you put your blood, sweat, and tears in. You know, we're still putting up blood, sweat, and tears in.
Yeah, but
No.
Curtis, that's the whole purpose. See, we hold ourselves to an irrational standard as black business people. And I'll tell you where the difference is. So if you define a black business the way the Graves family defined it, black owned, we own it all, it's ours, you wind up not selling your product at the maximum value the way Clarence and Ed did when they got $250 million for Essence, which today isn't worth $10 million.
Right.
Okay? Now, the purpose of capitalism is to sell at the highest price and get the cash for your family.
No question.
For your race.
No
And
question.
I made the mistake. I remember once throwing a Jewish boy out of my office because he had the audacity, Len, you sat in that office yourself, of telling me he wanted to give me $20 million to make me a 20% owner of my own company. And I threw that boy out my office so fast, I cursed him out and said, "How am I going to stay in the BE 100 if I sell you 80%? Man, I have thought about that $20 million every day.
Right. And you're right, Frank. And you're right. I think that we get
all I cared about was this will mess me up from being black owned. And the whole purpose of business, if we had enough black business people around us, would be no. You sell the business and you empower your family with a fund. That's what you do. And the race, if enough people do that within a race, well, then your race is strong. But you can't hold on to something on behalf of a race and diminish your own value the way the Johnson family did. the first ones, because what was Linda's empire worth at the end versus what it would have been worth had they merged with you guys and gone public together?
Well, I mean, that goes back to what I was saying on it, Frank, is that we get caught to Wayne's point, we get caught in on silos. You know, now I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give you the in out. Now, me and Bob battled before we sold the company. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't give it up. I mean, believe me and Bob had some real battles about the company, because my feelings were before we sold the company is that we hadn't maximized it enough yet, and that we still had time to maximize it, to play more of the game that you were saying. Because I won't ever forget that. Here's the conversation that some of the Red Sox said to us when we sold the company. He walked into our room with all the EVPs and said, turned to me, particulars. He said, Curtis, thank you for giving me 80 million subscribers right now. Yeah, I sold the company to Bob I bought the company from Bob for $3 billion, but he doesn't realize, he thinks he got me. The company now worth $6 billion at the same time. So I want to thank you for that, okay? And that's where to your point, sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, okay? Yeah. Where there is a long term where we could look at that, along with the opportunity to bring more people in to help you grow your business. And that's where I think sometimes as Black business people, we get lost in that direction, you know, and it affects us, you know, big time.
And just to be fair to Mr. Johnson, and it was, well, no, I mean, but look, I got stories for days, even with Ed and Clarence at Essence. When we went to buy Honey, we wanted to do a joint venture with Ed and Clarence, and took it over to them. They sort of said, nah, we don't think it's a good idea. Thank God we had signed an NDA with the guys that own Slam and those other books. Because Ed and Clarence called them to buy it right after we left the room. So,
well, let me say this to you.
Huh?
No, I was going to say to you, if I'm not mistaken, at that time that you guys sold BET, Mel Karmazin was there.
Yep.
Mel Karmazin was my boss at Infinity. And I remember we were on a management meeting in Cancun, and
that's tough, Reggie. That's tough, Reggie. You in Cancun? That's tough, Reggie. That's tough.
And Mel came to me, and they wanted to have a foothold in with the Black audience,
right?
Because if you remember, Infinity had no stations that targeted Black. So what happened is that they got a hold of Westwood One, and
that's right,
and then a hold of Donnie Simpson.
Yep.
And he asked me, he says, I want to put Donnie on Infinity and Westwood. What you think? And I said, I think that Tom Joyner has a bigger presence nationally than Donnie, because at the particular time Donnie was on Video Soul,
right,
on BET,
and he's still doing his local radio show in DC too.
Yeah, he was at Kiss.
Okay.
And I was running one of the light AC stations in Baltimore, WLIF. I was the only Black manager. I was the only Black manager in all of Infinity.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that, Reg.
And Mel was really like surprised. You're not feeling Donnie? I said, no, it's not that I'm not feeling Donnie, but I know that Tom has a broader appeal on a national level.
Which he did.
Well, next thing I know, Mel left and went to CBS, and he took a couple of Infinity people with him. And then the next thing I knew, this whole thing unfolded with BET. And the deal is that Mel had always wanted to have a foothold with Black audience.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why he hired me to join Infinity, I was with Summit. And Summit had New York, they had V in Atlanta, V in Baltimore, they had one of the stations in Dallas, and Mel wanted me to come over to Infinity. And one of the reasons was because V103 was the #1 billing station in Baltimore, and he couldn't figure out how I was beating him with a black audience that's not getting the same amount of revenue because they want to give you the cost per point based on a black cost per point,
right,
versus the general market cost per point. And so Wayne asked the question a little while ago about why we ended up in these silos. So the problem is because the general market base of dollars didn't allow us to share comfortably.
No question.
There was a lot of felt as though they felt as though they had to compartmentalize. So that's the one problem that you had with Mr. Johnson over at Johnson. I remember in the days that the Suttons, they would only put white boys in running the company because they felt as though white boys could possibly get more money from the ad agencies than black managers could. And Radio One still does that too.
Radio One, that's Alfred's thinking. That's Alfred's thinking.
That's exactly
no
question.
Gentlemen, if I may, because we got to get to the two others and we stop at 5:30. But I just want to sum this up, and this is all of you guys. That's what you taught me. You see, I watched this as it was coming up in the industry. And that's why I keep calling everyone here. You wonder why I keep calling you guys. It's because the industry showed that we didn't call and share with each other. I learned from you to share. I learned for you, if Curtis Simon is doing something, I would call Randy and tell Randy what Curtis Simon is doing. I say you need to check him out. Or I will call Ted Pettis, or I will call somebody else. And I will call as well as Len. The point of it is, this is new day now. We cannot do this on the old school, here, boy, here's my money. Now you go out and find the best way how to get your money. It doesn't work that way anymore. We got Curtis Simon is on a roll. And I'll make sure we exchange those numbers and emails. Don't dismiss Curtis. I know what Curtis is doing. Randy, y'all have no idea what Randy's doing. Randy has got into so much stuff, especially technology, is beyond your dream. We don't need to talk about Leonard Burnett. Because Len spends more time on the ground. Len will find a penny under a penny. Okay? So that's what's important here, is we're saying we cannot be like that. Because in order for us to grow and expand what we need to do, we must share. No matter, we ain't got to love each other, but we can make money with each other. I know y'all know that much. We can. Yeah. So I want to take it to you, Pauline, for the second question. Yeah.
All right.
Before you go on, Alvin, I just like to make a comment.
Yeah.
They might want to explore the idea. I'm a part of 153 chambers across the country, and what one of our chambers of commerce did nationally is they developed a Black Resiliency Fund, and we should look at how these medias can work together in synergy. We got over 30 million African Americans. If they gave $1, we'd have 30 million to go into media. So we, with all of the medias coming together, putting a voice in this Black Lives Matter, nobody is saying Black media matter, but through a resiliency fund, we could say Black media matters and raise some capital.
I like that. I like that thought.
I like that.
Great thought.
I like that.
Okay, the next question is how the Black community can help to support and sustain Black media. Throw that out to you guys.
Basically, that's what they.
Well, I'll start off on that one because unfortunately, I can't stay on that long. I've got to jump to a Zoom. But I mean, I think that was one of the big things early on that really helped build BT, because we really worked the community to another matter. The problem is consistency behind it, you know, and I think that's one of the things that we as Black media don't spend enough time. I mean, enough time in doing that. And I think that what we've got to do, going back to Wayne's point when he asked the question, is, again, I'm going to throw this out again to everybody on this call, is that, you know, we need to work our synergy more. You know, it's too many organizations, too many groups, too many causes, too many things that we can't really partner with, or should be partnering with rather, to help the community understand what needs to be happening out there. It's back to, you know, a lot of times, let's think about it. How uneducated is some of our community about what's going on in Black media? That's a big thing. I mean, how educated are? Now, we know on this call what's going on, but really, truly, how educated is our community on that? I mean, I speak at HBCUs all the time, and it's amazing to me, young kids don't even know any of us on this call right now.
Nope.
They have no history on who helped build Black media.
That's
when you throw it out at them, it's like, oh, I don't know. You throw a name, you throw Wayne Gillum's name out, oh, I don't know that guy. You know, who is he? You know, you throw Phil's name out, who's Phil? You know, but they've never spent the time. And so one of the things that I think we've got to do is get in the community and help these people understand, you know, who we are better and what we can bring to the table. And I think that's one of the things that's missing, you know, out there, that we need to spend down the road a little bit more time and help these people be more educated on what Black media means, because it's been missing.
I would definitely, I'm gonna cross-pollinate this right now. Curtis, you have HBCU Go. You have a lot of college students looking at your program, because I have it downloaded on my phone. Am I saying that right, Stuff?
Right.
Okay then, and let's cross-pollinate with Randy and with Len. All right then, put together a panel and let's do the series off of your format, because Randy got formats too. Randy, tell them how many people you got digitally, brother. Come on now.
Well, you know, we live digital. We got 2.5 million unique visitors every month on average. It can go from 2 up to 3.5.
That's great.
A month. Unique visitors. But here's the other thing I want to say, and you know, it struck me just now, a couple of things. Number one, Lynn said something real important about thank you to the Black agencies, because they have supported us. Not that we don't have white agencies, but thank God for the Black agencies.
Exactly.
Who have continued to, you know, like he mentioned, Uniworld, and when Mingo Chisholm was there, I can remember early on in our days, you know, just being able to get that extra from those folks in that silo, which I think again is not part of the problem. Is they give everybody that limited budgets,
right,
those limited agencies, when there's really so much more money for all of us, that we're the people that none of us are getting it from. You know, it's the Volvos. There's all these companies that we could name that we all spend our money on that none of us get. So my thing is, and we are a member of NNPA as well, and my thing has always been, even with them, let's go after what none of us get. We can't all live off them same. I could name probably 10 or 15 companies that we all probably get some of and have gotten over the years. We know the names. But there's 400 and some others on the Fortune 500 who don't give any of us really any money. And I think if we work together to get that money, that's the gold mine that we can all obtain. And the other thing is, even the money that does come through and things we get, and it hit me on this call clearly, I can get more from some of the agencies I do get and share it if I had better and more partners, believe it or not, in the digital space that are Black owned. And I'm already doing that with some other people. And
I'm with you, Randy. I'm with you.
Can I say something real quick? I spent 2 years ago, I retired as the director of advertising at the Crisis magazine and at the NAACP. And one of the things that I found was that a lot of these companies, and speaking of what you were talking about, Randy, is that we moved down the rung because the Hispanic market became the main color. And I remember I went into AARP to try to create a hybrid annual edition with the Crisis and AARP's magazine. And they told me, oh, I'm sorry, I don't think we can embed with them. But meanwhile, they created a magazine just for Latino and Latina, the Hispanic community, called Viva. And tons of money went into that. The only way we ended up getting money from AARP is because Carol H. Williams was on our board at the Crisis.
Okay.
And she stepped in and hooked us up with that. And
No,
as
that's
long, you know,
important.
and that's how we got it.
No,
Well,
it's
let's talk
Well,
about that. That's one of the other
well-
things that I think that's important that Reggie just hit on. You know, see, also the other thing that we've lost out there is that we've lost some key people in key positions down the road who could maybe help move the trigger a little bit. And now what we're doing, you walk in just like Reggie was talking about, and he's walking in a room where people don't even know who he is. No one's really taken him in and said, you know, now let me give you a case in point that just happened to me a while back to what I'm saying. Okay, the president of AARP is Joanne Jenkins. Okay, now here's how small world is, but here's how I'm talking about people you know. Joanne Jenkins and my wife are Jack and Jill partners. Okay, in the Fairfax community. So I walked in there with a Moby symposium idea and said, "Hey, Joanne, look, I'm not even going to her lieutenants. I'm going directly to her. Say, I need you to do this for me." Within 15 minutes, I had a $50,000 commitment.
There you go.
Okay. Now, no one would have been able to do that if they had just walked up the street. But again, the network of networks is the thing that is also lost for us. You know, we don't have that tie in certain places that you can get that. And that's the other thing that we battle, as Randy was just talking about, you know, in the partnership. And I'm with you, Randy, all the way, man. And I'm going to get you information, man, because I definitely want to partner with you.
Yeah,
But,
$1.50, $1.50.
you know, $1.50, whatever it costs me, Al, and I know it costs TMI something to pay you, so I'll pay you, you know. But, you know, that's the kind of things that we're up against. You know, we're up against. And then when you look at now the agency we have to walk into, as Byron makes it very clearly, you know, you're talking about, you know, it's racism on Madison Avenue. Bottom line.
It's a 22-year-old white girl. It's
Right,
20,
exactly.
20, you know, and you sitting there
Right.
explaining to her why your product has value.
Exactly.
Well, you know, when you had access to the black agencies, you had a partner in the black agency
Exactly.
because
Right.
the money was with the client. The client was listening to the agency say, well, hey, I think you should be advertising in this publication on this network and so forth.
Exactamundo.
When the general market agencies saw that clients were responding to this cultural phenomenon called African Americans, they went to their general market agency and said, look, we're going to take a cut of your expenses and give it to the minority-owned agencies. They didn't like that. So the general market agency started these cells within their house.
They did that.
And
They
tried
did
to say,
total
well,
market.
I tell you what. I tell you what.
But also something changed. We went from black, African American to urban.
Yep.
When it
You can
became
blame
urban,
Keith for that.
That was part of my fault. I
You
think
can blame Len
when
Burnett for that.
when you start urban, the white guys, the white boys in the agencies, hey, they're wearing their caps backwards. They're no longer in chinos, right? They got this urban look, and all of a sudden, what they say negates what the black agency says, and so you see a drop off. You had some very, very good agencies over the years, but now you have what? You got Burrell, white owned for all intents, Uniworld, part of the general market house. You got Carroll, who is an independent. But after you drop off that, what do you have? You have these agencies that were started from the general market companies. But the decision makers of how they spend their money sit in the bigger house, in the WPPs, the IPGs. That's
Right.
where the money is. The agencies, a lot of those agencies no longer place their media because they're part of a bigger house, and that house has a media buying service.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
Okay.
When we had Carson products, we were making good money, but we were not making the type of money a Clairol or a L'Oreal was making.
No, not at all.
All right. But what happened was our next big push was we won all of the brands, all of the badges from Chrysler. We had Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth, Jeep. First time, okay? And we set on that, grew that business, and we had media money coming in, and we were placing in BET, Essence, Ebony, whatever, okay? These were companies that had deep pockets, and they wanted to be everywhere, talking to our consumer. Then what happened? They started, I think it was Pentagram. And all the media money went from the Black Agents.
Yep.
And then they hired the one Negro to make sure he shook everyone down that came there.
Oh,
Who
what's
was that?
What's his name, Frank? Keith, what's his name?
Calloway, Terry Calloway.
Terry Calloway, that's right. It was Terry Calloway.
They had
Where was he?
Trick. He did a good trick.
Where was he?
Excuse me, gentlemen. Excuse me, gentlemen. I have to pay the bills right now. So
I'm sorry.
give me a minute here. One of our sponsors is the law firm of Stephen G. James, and he's located at 87-66 Southern Boulevard here in Jamaica, Queens. His phone number is 646-905-9000. And we also have the Nourish Spot, where you can get the most healthiest food that you could possibly want. And they're located at 107-05 Guy R. Brewer Boulevard here in Jamaica. And you can reach her, which is Kelly, Miss Kelly, at 718-526-6099. And now I'm going to take it back to my favorite TMI. Go ahead and sell your spot.
Yes, that's right. This spot is presented by TMI and Partners. Look us up at www.tmium.com, or you can call us at 347-234-5304. I repeat again, that's 347-234-5304. Now back to me. Thank you.
And before you go any further,
That's a good job, Al.
paid for this, if you will. I have a
Where did that
four-bedroom
voice come from?
I got a 4-bedroom apartment, Lower Westchester County, $3,000 a month, fully equipped, 2 parking spaces, a mile from the beach, and if your kids are going to college, Iona College is right around the corner. I ain't getting paid, I might as well sell something.
That number is Wayne.
Boathouse.
And the telephone number to call Wayne.
Well, call Our World. I got too many numbers to.
And I also want to take the time to say you're listening to Our World, Our Power radio show here. And I'm Lady Pauline, and I'm glad to have you all on as guests. Let's continue this conversation.
I know it's time to wrap up here, but there's 2 things that's happening here. I asked all the brothers here and all of our other guests is Pauline actually brought me on as a client to brand this network. First, I want us to start supporting her. That's the first thing, okay, guys? That's the first thing I want. Second of all, I want our guests, because we have about 11 guests that are sitting around listening. I'm going to show you what's about to happen. All right, Curtis, I'm going to make sure I'll make sure everyone gets everyone's number. But definitely, I want you to team up with Randy, because Curtis, Randy, and Len. All right, this is what's happening. Curtis has the enroll all the way through to HBCUs, from properties to students and everything else. Randy has all those young people, okay? Len Burnett, you do have the middle to upscale African Americans, because that's your style, people that watch what's going on. We need to come up with well, Phil, you find money all over the place. Quit raising your hand, Phil. Okay, this is what we need to do. We need to come up for 2021. Here we go, planning it now. A campaign, like Curtis said, we can still stay in the COVID-19 webinar, whatever it is, because I spoke to Genevieve, and Genevieve wants to do a whole show on the space of this whole virtual stuff. But I believe if we put together a program that's going to talk about some of the things that Curtis was talking about, because nobody knows all of what's happening out here, right. Putting it together, we can get advertisers. And here's the key thing, not only from these white agencies. There's enough successful Black businesses out here that don't know how to spend their money. And they want to meet powerful people like you guys. because I sell all you guys. They want to meet you. And when I mention you guys' name, so we have to use the power of, look, if you don't want to play, get out of the way. Frank McConnell will tell you, if you ain't playing, then don't get in there. Y'all know Frank. And that's
Frank would add a few expletives in between there, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Lem. I was gonna say he's got a couple. He's got a deep vocabulary.
Yeah, yes.
So the power is, I'm just telling you, brothers, we need to do that. Curtis got his product going. We should be getting ready. I need to get those numbers up for Curtis. Okay, then? Okay, I need to get those numbers up. Whatever we got to do.
Definitely shoot us everybody's email, and Curtis, I know.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you, Lem, for sure.
Okay.
But let me do this, Al. Let me do it because I got to jump off another Zoom with you grew up your way, Deidre Tate. That I promise you I'd do something.
Her father is the reason I'm in publishing.
Yes, indeed. Her father's a monster. Her father is I call him the Godfather.
He's the Godfather.
You know. But let me just say this to everyone on this call today. First of all, thank to everyone who was part of this thing today. I think it was great. Yeah, Lady Pauline,
yes,
welcome. You are a bad girl. You know, I mean, you didn't get enough time on the calendar here. You need to be putting more time and put a little bit more voice out here. I don't have to call when you cutting me off and jumping. You know.
All right. Well, next time I'm going to give you the whole show. After I'm going to ask you to come back in a few weeks, and we'll just talk one-on-one.
You got it. You got it.
But
so
thank you so much.
No, and I just want to thank everybody, you know, and if Al gets out there and gets everybody's information, I will definitely get back to you. Wayne, it's a pleasure seeing you again. It's been a while,
here, brother.
You know. So everybody take care, and I'll talk to everybody soon.
No problem. So as we wrap this up, on definitely Len and Randy, and like I said, there's some serious products flying around. Frank Mercado, I know you out of the mix. I know you are, but I know your fingers are itching. Good. What'd you say? Take the mute off. You're on mute, Frank. You're on mute. Frank, no, Frank, you're on mute. Frank, you're on mute. Oh, then Frank disappeared. No, Frank.
He's here.
There you go, Frank.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Frank.
Look, I think if there's an opportunity we could have exploited better, that we can still exploit now, especially if I was in the HBCU game today. In the old days, you had to ask white people for permission to be on their channel to have a half an hour or an hour, right? Yes. Today, you have a phone that can tape the same thing we used to have to pay people thousands of dollars to walk around with cameras. Benzino and all these guys walk around with cameras, right? Today, everybody's a cameraman. So the ability to reach people directly and set up your own networks within the existing things like YouTube and all these other new services, it exists equally, more or less, for everybody, regardless of color. Look at Candace Owens. She is a bird brain, and look what she's done for her brand online. So Uptown is right. Rolling out are right for digital manifestations that are stronger. We just have to get out of the old models because they're not going to work. We have to be the guys like we are in fashion that are always ahead of the game, not behind the game.
Well, guys, that's why Our World Media is here, and we're here to bring everything to the future, and we're doing everything digital, as you can see, and I sure would like to have your all support in continuing and in growing Our World Media, and especially Mr. Wayne Gilman, who I'm partnering up with.
Thank you. This lady once tried to drown me 30 years ago. That's a whole other story.
We can go back to Rye Playland.
Brother Mercado, I just wanted to ask a quick question. Any relation to the legendary Ralph Mercado or the Fania All-Stars and all that?
They are funny. I'm a Puerto Rican Cuban. He's Dominican.
Oh, okay.
We were good friends. He's a legend. I mean, that's
please.
the Don Cornelius of Spanish people.
Exactly. That's a whole other topic by itself.
That's a whole other subject.
Well, therefore, I want to be able, and Reginald, thank you again, because you bring a lot of spice to the table, and you have a long history. But I think it's important, and Leonard Burnett and Reggie, you guys know I bang on your door all day long. Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, Reggie and I have got a special relationship. You know, we go way back.
Yeah.
We're almost relatives.
So I believe that there's an opportunity. You guys got some strong brands. I believe between those 3 brands, we can do a lot. And because you guys are big companies, because I consider you are in our space, we can get a lot of all the small medias and other folks to come your way. You follow me? To jump on board. Because again, you guys got that going on. So I'm going to make sure I turn this back over to Pauline. I thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Blessing me.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
love
brother.
every one of y'all. You guys mean so much to me. And I just want to let you know, having to speak to you makes it so powerful. I will never give up. I will never stop. I will keep working. And Len, you knew my mother too.
Yes.
You knew my mother.
Yep.
Randy, you knew my mother too?
I didn't.
No, you didn't.
I did not.
Are you still doing the HBCU tours?
Well, I was doing them, but I would love to get back out. Once y'all figure that out, when COVID's go, I wanna get those.
That's the market, guys. They all
Yep.
got iPhones. They all got TVs all
Yep.
the
Yeah.
time, man. You don't
Yep.
need a magazine. You got them 24/7 now.
Absolutely.
They all produce content.
Come on, make them be contributors to Rolling Out and Uptown. You can tie those
Absolutely.
people together.
There you go.
Yeah, we're working hard toward that. No, that's
Yeah.
no joke.
They're
Yeah.
there. They
But-
got
but-
nothing else. They're walking around with
but
TV
Frank,
screens.
That's where Curtis go to HBCU Grow. That's what Curtis
Got
is
it.
them doing automatically.
Frank, we need you back. We need you
Okay.
back in,
Hey,
Frank.
you can always call me.
Oh,
Sit
Frank,
around
We need
all
you
day.
back in, baby.
Oh God, look. Yeah, see, Frank, we're pulling you back in, baby.
That's
He's
what
like,
I
Frank's like the
do.
Godfather. Got me, and pull me back in.
The
And
Godfather.
Lady Pauline, look. I tell you one thing I learned from
Yes.
Lady Pauline. I gotta get my lighting game together. I look like I'm witness protection. You look like HD.
Oh, really?
I
Thank you.
like what light you got. I need that.
Well, I tell you,
Yes.
I have an awesome producer, and he does all this work behind the
Oh,
scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Great job.
And his
Yeah,
name
you
is
can tell.
Joseph Swift, and he's also
Oh,
the
Joey, he did a great job.
he's also the godson of Wayne Gilman. So it
And
runs in
soon
the
to
fact.
be, I was about to say, I'm soon going to be.
Behind the scenes doing the setup of the lighting and the camera work and all that. You usually don't see me.
Are you gonna say
Real
something,
talk.
Reggie? Randy, you were gonna say something?
Oh no, I was just saying. You can see how she's HD, but the background you can see it, but it's just a little softer.
Yeah, every out of
that's that
focus.
real.
It's
no,
on the
that's that real deal.
f2.0.
That's the real
Right.
deal.
She got
Yeah.
that going on.
Oh my God.
And one thing I want to say, I know we don't have a lot of time, and and we got to sing praises. We talked about a lot of people that were supportive and some that weren't, but I want to acknowledge and certainly Alvin and Mr. Pettis, all this certainly, but someone that and you guys know this, Frank Mercado was always a brother that was there to support. One story I'll tell you, was Keith and I were out raising money and got the rug pulled out on us at the last second. We were left vibe, standing alone by ourselves. And Frank said, "Hey, come to my office and set up shop. Here's the conference room, phone, whatever you need." And a matter of fact, I think Frank may gave me some money or put me on his insurance or some shit, did something. but so we talk a lot about how some people weren't supportive or had, ulterior motives. Frank, and there are others, but I just want to shout Frank out while we're on the
Thank
phone and just let him know that's something I always remember.
Bravo, Frank.
Bravo.
Wasn't
Bravo.
Quincy
Good
Jones
real
involved
bravo.
with Vibe?
Yes, Quincy. It was Quincy's his idea.
Oh,
Yeah, and then he had a Quest Records, which was part of Time Warner, and I forget the CEO at the time, but they backed it, and
Wow.
the rest was history. Well, there's a lot of history to get there, but it was it happened.
Well, we're winding down, and I would like to speak with Phil Andrews. Can you please tell the audience how they can reach you? Phil. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Phil is gone.
Phil, you still
Please
on
tell the audience how they can reach
Hello?
you.
Yeah, go ahead,
Oh
Phil.
yes, they can reach me at Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce, www.liaacc.org. And I just wanted to have one brief comment. We need to take these media companies and make them integrated, because you got digital
That's it.
marketing, social media marketing, search
Mm.
engine optimization, my Google, and we got all these young people that's very talented. They were born with a phone in their hand.
Exactly.
That's very true.
All right. Well,
Very
I'm
good.
gonna make it happen, guys. I'll circulate emails. We'll start pushing immediately and get together a 2021 program, because there's a lot of money to be made. Frank, I'm gonna track you down, Frank.
Yeah, I'm here.
I know, Frank. We need to
I
get
ain't got
back in.
nowhere.
Yeah, let's get together.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Love you,
Thank you.
Len.
All
Love you,
right.
Everybody.
you.
All the
Bye-bye.
Take
best.
care, guys.
Okay.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very
Take care.
much. Thank you all very, very much.
Bye-bye.
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 So, Roz?